I have a confession to make.
I have a confession to make.
I have a confession to make.
I have an addiction that some of you may share.
I
Some
have an
addiction
addiction
that
that some of you may
share.
I have a confession to make.
I have an addiction that some of you may share. Now, when you hear the word addiction, you may be thinking of alcohol addiction, going out and partying too much, or gambling addiction, blowing your life savings on the spin of a roulette wheel. Or even drug addiction may be what comes to mind. No, none of those are my addiction. This addiction is a little more subtle. I'm talking about solar addiction. Now, I know that sounds strange, but give me a minute to explain. I have had a grid-tied system with microinverters for over 10 years, probably closer to 20, and did see some difference in my electric bill. Enough to say that the math came out on the positive end. But over the past 4 years, I've been researching whole home solar energy systems, or as they say in the industry, ESS, energy storage systems, microgrids, and started this small critical load system that took about 7 circuits off the grid most of the time. Depending on the weather, weather's always going to be something that messes you up sometimes. I'll be making a video describing that experience in the near future. When I saw how much difference that would make on my electric bill, I became fascinated with being completely off the grid for the whole house, better known as energy independence. Being energy independent is my new obsession. Through my research, I came to realize that a hybrid inverter is probably the way for me to go so that I could still get some use out of my grid-tied array, add some energy storage, and basically I'd narrowed it down to 2 hybrid inverters as potential candidates for the central component in my new system. Now, I know there are other inverters on the market, but these were in the price range that I thought I could live with, and price is always a big contributing factor to any decision, especially about the investment this large. So the first one that I had my eyes on was kind of high on the price. You know, I always want to get the best I can get and try to stay within some kind of budget, but was the Sol-Ark 15K, which had only been on the market since 2022, but the predecessors to that 15K was the 8K and the 12K, and they were doing pretty well on the market and were getting really good reviews that seemed pretty impressive for bang for the buck wise. The second candidate that I came across was the EG4 18K PV, which was the new beast on the block and was basically designed to challenge the Sol-Ark 15K for whole home energy independence and home backup power applications. Both inverters have a lot of similar specs. Both have that 200 amp bypass. The max AC output is roughly about 15 kilowatts with PV, you know, with some solar coming in. Without that, you'd probably only get about 12 kilowatts of continuous power from the batteries alone. Some differences, but you know, some similar specs, so they were pretty close. The more I read reviews and watched videos, and the more I wanted to go with the Sol-Ark 15K because of Sol-Ark's longevity on the market and the glowing customer reviews about their tech support. But the price difference was big enough that I was still tempted to go with the EG4 18K PV, which was the new kid on the block. I even got to the point where I was putting shopping carts together, going to different distributors, you know, putting the 18K and the batteries in there so I could see what it would cost with the shipping and the whole 9 yards, so I could try to keep my budget tight. Now, I know everybody's going to laugh at that because when you're doing this stuff, you're probably going to blow your budget. It's something that's probably going to happen. So you always want to put a little extra cushion in there no matter what your numbers come out. As fortune would have it, I did find a free shipping deal that, along with a 5% discount code that I had found online for Solar Sovereign, the price between getting the Sol-Ark 15K and the 18K PV was just a few $100. At this point, it was a no-brainer. I had just come off of a really bad experience with another manufacturer, and I really didn't want to have that experience again. Tech support was horrible, the time difference, the tech support was in China, the language barrier, having to start from zero every time that I got on the phone with them or was emailing them, even though I had a case number, weeks between responses. It was horrible. So tech support reviews on the Sol-Ark was the final nail in the coffin for me and made me go with the Sol-Ark 15K.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
And now I have two Sol-Ark 15Ks. Now I did go with EG4's batteries. They've been great to me. And my monster has been a beautiful thing. I've been able to run my entire home with the grid as backup for about 6 months now, with no issues at all, for about 88.5% of the time. That was what the math said the last time I put pen to paper. And yes, I'm trying to get rid of that last 11.5%. Now, this is my first summer with this system. And as I suspected when I started building this system, I do need more PV. I'm going to build a solar pergola next to my house to add some PV so that I can charge up my batteries faster. I also could see some added storage in my future, expanding my battery bank. My system consists of 2 Sol-Ark 15Ks, 3 EG4 Power Pro Wall batteries, outdoor models, and 6 EG4 LL-V2 rack mount batteries in a rack. Worth every penny. I'm ready for the next time the grid goes down for whatever reason. And believe me, I've had experiences with the grid going down living in Southeast Louisiana, growing up here and living here most of my life. And basically, I don't pay for about 80 to 90% of my energy needs, and I'm determined to get to 100. This is my addiction. Being energy independent is an empowering feeling that I cannot recommend higher. You should invest in your own power plant if the numbers make sense for you. Energy farming is habit forming. Welcome to my solar addiction. It's probably your addiction too. I spend a good bit of time online researching energy storage systems, microgrid technology. It fascinates me. And with the hurricane season kicking off with a bang, with Beryl in the tropics now, I feel relaxed knowing that if the grid goes down during a storm, and it doesn't take a hurricane for that to happen. In case you haven't noticed, big storms are popping up all across the country, all across the planet. And I'm ready for that and any other grid down situation, as long as the storm doesn't hit my house. If the tornado hits my house, that's a different story. But other than that, the grid goes down, I'm prepared. I guess it's appropriate that I'm launching my channel at the beginning of hurricane season, because that's a lot of the reason why I'm on this journey. I promised myself the next time a disaster, storm, attack on the grid, whatever it would be, without electricity, I don't want to be that guy. The last time we had a grid down situation, we were driving 65 miles to fill up gas cans to help keep our generators going for my home as well as my neighbor and some elderly people we were taking care of. So after that, I went generator crazy. Even though I have a killer solar setup, I still have 11.5 kilowatt Champion tri-fuel generator with a natural gas hookup. I also have a 6,500 watt Generac gas-powered generator, and I still have a EcoFlow Delta Pro solar generator. Talk about redundancy. I'm a big fan of it. So what started with me not wanting to sweat my balls off every time the grid goes down has now progressed to a constant quest for energy independence. Anyone interested in true energy independence will probably gain something from this channel. I will not only bring you ongoing updates of my system and how it's transforming, because it's not complete yet, but I also will be bringing information on new products hitting the market as well as ones that are soon to come out. We will also have fun. Fun with AI, fun with people's solar addiction stories. I will also be trying to get some stories together of others in my area seeking energy independence. So let me show you my system, how it's set up now, and then I'll talk about what's the next step and where it's going from here. So I have two Sol-Ark 15Ks in parallel. I have 3 EG4 Power Pro all-weather wall batteries. I also have 6 EG4 LL-V2 rack mount batteries in a rack. Now the two Sol-Ark 15Ks will give me a total of 30,000 watts of power with solar coming in and 24,000 watts max just off of batteries. The 3 EG4 LL Power Pro all-weather wall batteries are rated at 14.3 kilowatt hours each, or 280 amp hours each. So that gives me a total of 42.9 kilowatt hours of energy storage with those three alone. And then we add in the other 6 batteries for the LL-V2 batteries, which are 5.12 kilowatt hours each, or 100 amp hours each, to give me a total of 1440 amp hours total of energy storage, or 73.62 kilowatt hours of energy storage. Now in the wintertime, the fall, and the spring, I can last weeks. As long as the sun comes out decently, I can last weeks. But in the summertime, I need to be able to charge these up faster, as I said before. So got to add more PV and potentially probably add some more battery storage. So you can notice in the video, we can see that I have a wiring trough below the Sol-Arks, and I have a grid disconnect in the middle of the two Sol-Arks. There's a test that they want you to run for warranty, where you have to be off the grid and be able to have this unit running your load. So if you're actually connected to your home panel, you're going to need a separate external disconnect for just the grid to do that test. And if you don't do the test, then you might not have warranty. So I highly recommend putting it at external grid disconnect. It'll help you with doing other testing on your system as well. I do also have a double throw transfer switch or service disconnect, so that I can completely take the system offline if something goes wrong, work on the system, change things around. If everything goes to pot, I can actually go back to the grid and not have a problem while I'm working on things. So first we got to take the cover off of the wiring trough so we can see what's happening inside. So you'll notice that I use my little lifting cart for a lot of things. It's like my extra set of hands. I can't recommend getting one of those higher, because if you're working by yourself and you don't have another set of hands, it comes in handy for even just getting the cover off of this wiring trough. And it also helped me with lifting some of this equipment up onto the walls too. So you may want to look into getting one of those babies. So as you can see, inside the wiring trough, there's a lot of stuff going on. Now you will notice probably right off the bat that I have those Amphenol connectors. I use those for quick connect disconnect from both battery banks, so that I could separate the 3 wall batteries and the 6 rack mount batteries as needed. And as a matter of fact, when I first purchased my system, EG4 was still saying that the batteries were not going to work together, but that has since changed. They have the same LL BMS in both units, the wall batteries as well as the rack mount batteries. So they are compatible. You just have to update the firmware on all your batteries and they will talk to each other. The manual did say when I had first received them that the warranty wouldn't be honored if you used any different amp hour batteries with the EG4 Power Pro Wall batteries. That is no longer true. They have changed the manual. They will honor the warranty. They do work together, and that's awesome. I did set it up so that I could quickly switch from one battery bank to the other to accommodate that lack of warranty if they were together, but that is no longer needed. So as part of my new setup, I might not do that. I may just go with regular lugs connecting to my bus bars. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that I have the Blue Sea 1000 amp bus bars. I really like those. I'll put a link in the bottom of the description to those, as well as the Amphenol connectors and everything in my system. You'll also see that I have 200 amp fuses on the positives of each battery connection to the main bus bar. You can see my CTs off to the right. And all of my cables are labeled, load, grid, all of those things are labeled. I label everything. That helps me coordinate things in my head as well as keep track of what's going on, and it helps you see what's happening too. You'll see that I also use those Polaris lugs to share my connections. See, when you're doing a parallel system, you need to share all of your battery banks between each inverter. You need to share all loads as well as all grid connections. I also have a Victron shunt in the back, and I've been having some issues with that. It's been in and out, but I think that's a problem with the power supply and the cable, so I'll solve that one pretty soon. You'll also see that I have some wires coming off of the power supply to power a Orange Pi for my Solar Assistant. And Solar Assistant cables are going in on the right hand side over there. You'll also see that I have an EG4 charge inverter. Remember when I said I went generator crazy? I would use any one of my generators to charge my batteries via the charge inverter. And I could use my charge inverter through the electricity in the house, which is being powered by the Sol-Arks, or I could connect it directly to the generator. I have a port in my wall to run the cable for one of those extreme situations where I still needed to charge my batteries. There's no sun coming in, and we're in a grid down situation. Notice I have locks on all of my grid disconnect as well as my service disconnect. Don't want people just throwing those without thinking. Don't want people's hands in there. I also lock the cabinets to the Sol-Arks when we're not doing videos, of course. You'll notice that I have two sets of 2-aught going to my Sol-Arks. Could have used 4-aught, but I saw a video on Sol-Ark's website where they recommended doing it this way because of code. So I went with that. Why argue with it? You can see we have the PV coming in here through the top here through my emergency shutdown, AP Smart. And then we've got our parallel cables We've got our cable going from the Power Pro batteries to the main bus bar here and here. And then we've got PV2 positive and PV2 negative. Everything's labeled. PV1, PV1. Okay. And of course we've got the EG4 charge verter coming in through here, and then it goes all the way through to here into our next box. See, there's my AP Smart PV safety. And we have our charging bus bar. Now, when I say charging bus bar, because we've got, here's our charge verter coming in, here and here. Yep. And then we've got these Amphenol connectors, so I can connect any one of my batteries to the charge verter separate from the main battery bank. Okay. Right. And once again, parallel cables. Main ground wire. And then we come to this guy. And in here, it's a continuation of the same process. So we've got the cables connecting this battery to the main battery. And we've got these cables are coming from my LLV2s in the rack so that they can connect through here to the main charging bus bar. And then you can see that cable comes around here, comes into this case, to connect to my LLV2s. Now I have two different connections.
So, where do we go from here? Well, you might have noticed there's a big American flag on the left-hand side on the wall. Now, don't worry, it's not a real American flag. It's a big blanket that I got from USCCA when my father died, who was in the military. And they gave me quite a few things. And one of them was this huge American flag blanket. And because I'm kind of doing this a little bit in reverse, most people are showing their systems with building them right in front of you. Most people are showing you that build. I'm going to show you kind of in reverse because I will be changing things. And as I go through the changes, you'll see more specifics about how my system is set up. In my next video, I will be starting that change. And you will see what I plan to do in the future. I plan to set things up so that I can compare my Sol-Ark system to other systems on the market and continue to give you more information about how they stack up against the Sol-Ark 15K because it is so popular on the market right now. So let's see what's behind the curtain.
You want to help Alice? Now, Alice and Liz are going to help us. We'll see what's behind the big American flag. So what we got, Liz? Oh, it's an 18K PV.
If you found this information interesting or entertaining, or you maybe learned something, please like and subscribe. It does help with the channel. I know people hate to be asked that all the time, but it does work. It does help. It helps the algorithm find us. And I promise I will be bringing every bit of information I can find on energy storage systems and energy independence in general. So take care until next time, and I hope to see you the next time we have a video.